Welcome to the Rachel Varga podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Varga, double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist since 2011 with over 20,000 rejuvenation procedures performed. I'm an international clinical trainer for other physicians and nurses as well, celebrity skin expert, having been featured on some of the world's top proactive aging podcasts, and much, much more. Learn more at rachelvarga.ca and enjoy today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode on the Rachel Varga podcast. I'm your host, a humble human on a mission here to help you achieve and receive the best hair, skin, and nails of your life, slowing aging and get the energy, vitality, vibrancy, and radiance that you deserve so that you can show up as your best and brightest, healthiest version for yourself so that you have better interactions with yourself, but also people, places, and things around you. Let's help you be your best version in your personal and professional lives with what we talk about here on the show. In today's show, we are discussing how to slow aging and have glassy and clear skin through hormone and gut balancing. We have a returning guest joining us today, Dr. Trevor Cates. She's a dear friend of mine. I've known Dr. Trevor Cates for many years. She's also known as the Spa Doctor and has a very, very successful skincare line that's pH balanced. And Dr. Trevor Cates, in my personal professional opinion, was one of the first that I saw in the skincare world to actually care about ingredients and to actually formulate things in a way that's pH balanced for the skin. So Dr. Trevor Cates is someone I look up to, and you should definitely check out our recent episode on her podcast, the Women's Doctor podcast, where I spoke all about the deep aspects of cultivating radiance. Let me tell you a bit about our returning guest, Dr. Trevor Cates. She is an author of the USA Today and Amazon best-selling book, Clean Skin from Within, and founder of thespadoctor.com. She received her medical degree from the National University of Natural Medicine and was the first woman licensed as a naturopathic doctor in the state of California. She currently lives in Park City, Utah, where she helps patients from around the world with a focus on skin and hormones. She has been featured on various TV shows, including The Doctors and Extra TV. Dr. Cates has interviewed over 250 experts on the Spa Doctor podcast and hosted her own PBS special, Younger Skin from Within. Her second book, Natural Beauty Reset, the Spa Doctor 7-day program to harmonize hormones and restore radiance, launched this year. So go ahead and be sure to pick up Dr. Trevor Cates' books at thespadoctor.com. Her links for all of that is in the description of this episode. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, leave a review of what you found interesting in today's session. Welcome back, Dr. Trevor Cates. How are you today?
Great. It's great to be here with you.
We had a fun morning session earlier, and then you had to scoot off to an appointment where we actually recorded a session on deep beauty and radiance on your show. So that'll be really fun to share with my audience as well once that's live. So Dr. Trevor Cates, great to have you back. Nice to see you again. Look forward to seeing you in the flesh very soon also. But tell us a little bit about your story. If people have never heard about you before, you're known as the Spa Doctor across all social platforms. You've been in this functional skin world for a long time. I would actually position you as one of the OG original gangsters of the healthy naturopathic approach to skin and beauty. So tell us a little bit about your story of what got you uniquely interested in the skin.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a lot of health issues as a child. As a child, I had a lot of eczema, hives, mysterious rashes and bumps that would appear on my skin. I had a lot of allergies, and my parents took me to see a lot of different specialists, and I was put on one medication after another, and I would have either an allergic reaction or an adverse reaction to everything I was given either to take internally or to use topically. And so not only was it frustrating, but I was embarrassed by my skin. I remember I didn't feel like a normal kid. kid, and I felt like I missed out on a lot during that time. And then my parents thankfully didn't give up looking for answers. They eventually found a holistic practitioner that they took me to, and it really is the thing that turned my health around, that turned my life around. And even from the just how much time that the healthcare provider spent with me and the appointment to, I was just shocked by it because I'd never experienced somebody spending an entire hour with me, to then, of course, getting the results of it. And I remember thinking at that young age, thinking, why did I have to go through all of this? Why didn't any of these other healthcare providers mention a holistic approach as an option? I mean, even just to mention it, even if they didn't do it. And so it was frustrating for me. And it planted a seed early on in my life, on a different way of looking at medicine, and a complementary way, but a different way. And then I, fast forward to when I was in college, I found out I actually watched a program on TV on naturopathic medicine. And I realized, like, that actually is the way I've been feeling about medicine for most of my life. And so I wanted to go on and help other people. So that's what led me to become a naturopathic doctor. And it really, though, was about 10 years into my practice. I've been a naturopathic doctor for 22 years. And it was about 10 years into seeing patients that I actually shifted and started focusing on skin. And that's because I was working at the Waldorf Astoria Spa in Park City, and I was running programs there as a naturopathic doctor. And I was doing a weight loss program. And at the end of the 2 weeks, the people doing the program would say, Dr. Cates, I feel great. I've lost all this weight. But what surprises me is my skin. I didn't know my skin could look like this. And I said, and to me, I was thinking, well, of course, your skin is an outer reflection of your overall health. But when I said that to them, they were like, what? Like nobody had ever said that to them before. And I realized that it had been so intuitively and ingrained in me, because I'd been raised this way, since my own turnaround of my health and my skin problems. But I realized that so many people hadn't been given that approach, that look to your skin as your magic mirror that gives you answers, information about your overall health. And so that's what led me to write my first book, Clean Skin from Within. And then since then, I have gotten so many questions about hormones, because I touch on hormones in my first book. But that was the thing that especially women would say to me, okay, I need to understand about my hormones. I don't understand how they're working. How are they playing a role in my skin? How can I balance them? How can I do it naturally? Do I need bioidentical hormones? All of these questions. And so that was a big part of it. And then also, I realized with my first book, I hadn't really talked about a seasonal approach, that our skin, our food, our movement, mindset, all of these things, our needs change depending upon the season we're in. And I've been recommending that for my patients, but I hadn't put that in my first book. So that's a big focus on Natural Beauty Reset, my second book.
Ooh, I love this. How do the seasons impact our skin? It's funny, there's a lot of really sweet overlaps between Dr. Trevor Cates and I. In our health organization, there's not a lot of skin people. There's just a couple of us that are talking about skin. Everybody else talking about hormones and gut health and thyroid health, but not a lot of people talking about the skin that, know what they're talking about. By the way, leave your questions live in the comment section, and Dr. Trevor Cates and I will have an opportunity to answer your questions. That's kind of the bonuses of tuning in live to these interviews on YouTube here, which you should be sure to subscribe, like, share, and hit those notifications. So in your opinion, I do seasonal skincare programs, as you know. So that's where I do my tutorials every spring, summer, fall, winter. There's new things that I want to share and teach people what to do with their skin. So I'm curious for you, and in your book, how do the seasons impact your skin, and how do you recommend we navigate the rhythms, the cycles, the changes of seasons to best support the skin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think some of it makes sense. Like the changes of a lot to do with the sun, right? The changes of the sun are what give us the seasons. And so of course that's going to impact our skin along with food and movement mindset, which I also talk about. But when it comes to skin, you think about, we're in the summertime, we're out in the sun more. The sun is closer to us. We have longer days, more exposure to the sun. So that is an opportunity for us to get the great benefits of the sun, but also possibly some of the damaging effects. So some of, maybe hyperpigmentation, sun damage that happens to the skin. So what I look at is, in summer, for example, we want to focus on that protection, wearing hats, wearing cover-ups, wearing the mineral sunscreens and those sorts of things. And then when we go into fall, we want, we're transitioning. So what damage has occurred? So what can we do? What kinds of, facials, what kind of antioxidant products, things that we can do to reverse that damage? What can we do to help address some of the hyperpigmentation, uneven skin tone? And then as we go in, to winter, then we have more of that dryness, and we really want to hydrate the skin as we get colder temperatures. Not, we still want to protect our skin from sun damage, because we can get that UVA exposure through windows when we're driving, the tops of our hands, our face, our neck. So still wearing some protection there. And then spring, we're transitioning away from winter and preparing it for summer. So each of these seasons gives us an opportunity for our personal skincare routine, as well as possibly going in, getting your skin checked for sun damage and getting some potential treatments too.
Yes, perfect. I love hearing this from other, skin experts out there, that we're kind of on the same like parallel trajectory with how we help people. It's kind of neat. Do you have a favorite season?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I really love fall because in Park City we have, lots of colors of leaves changing and things. And I've lived all around the United States, and even in places like California or Arizona, where you think not really there's much of a seasonal change, there is still this shift. There's something that happens in fall that we feel. And the fall food harvest, that's partly one of the reasons why I love fall, is the harvest for food is so abundant, and a lot of the foods that taste really great. I mean, summer is really fantastic too, but there's something about like pumpkin and the like cinnamon and nutmeg and some of the warming ginger and turmeric, and getting warming spices in, and that change in the temperature. And here we get like a little bit of snowfall too, so it's that it's fun to feel the changes in the seasons. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. In fact, I was just in Utah like 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. So I was able to witness that fall transition. And oh my gosh, the scenery there is so beautiful. I mean, the fall season transition here where I live too, on this beautiful island I'm on, is quite remarkable. So yes, love that like cozy feeling, but the skin absolutely does have different needs. We need to focus on a slightly more hydrating moisturizer. So I'm a huge fan of having like a lighter moisturizer and also a richer one, say if you're doing your rolling, or if you're using some retinols or some at-home peels, or you're even starting to get some laser skin rejuvenation. That's why I do these skin camp programs, is because every season we're learning new information, and through research and attending events and conferences. And then we also need to focus and shift a little bit with the products we're using, and maybe focus on some more at home and in clinic skin rejuvenation. I do, however, love the spring. I feel like the spring is when things reemerge. It feels very warm and happy, and life is coming back. I do love the spring for that. And of course, being able to get some more of that vitamin D on the body is also a great thing to do. So I'm glad that you put attention on the seasons in your work as well. I ask every single guest here on the show, what is radiance? What is radiance to you, Trevor? And actually, I was just on your show answering this question. But if you were to kind of ignore what I said, when you look at somebody or you're at an event and someone enters the room, what gravitates you to certain people that you would say is kind of beyond just being beautiful, but it's like an energetic attraction, it's radiance? And what are some of the common trends that you see that certain individuals that you would characterize as high vibe, beautiful, light, radiant people have that might be a little different?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think of radiance as true, authentic beauty. That's one of the reasons why I named my most recent book Natural Beauty Reset, to help people reframe how they look at beauty, and more of a sense of radiance, that so much of our beauty comes from within if we allow it to radiate. I think that so many of us, really all of us, have had hurtful experiences, right? Where somebody has said something that's hurt our feelings. And so what ends up happening is people oftentimes put up a barrier, they put up armor. And so it's harder to sometimes see people's radiance. But I truly believe that we are born with incredible radiance. Every single person is. And that a lot of times we just need to get back to that, to restore that inner beauty, that radiance. And, it's interesting with the docu-series that I just did, the Hormones, Health, and Harmony documentary series. I interviewed over 50 experts, and I asked every single one of them, even the men, when did you realize that you're beautiful? And I didn't ask, do you think you're beautiful? Are you beautiful? I think you're beautiful. I said, when did you realize that you're beautiful? And I think it's a really powerful question. And the first time I was filming, and we asked one of my patients actually this question, and she was like kind of shocked by it. And it was really cool to see her like take a moment and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to own this. Like, I'm going to tell you when I realized I was beautiful. And so it was really fun to see that. And every single one of the experts that I interviewed, I loved getting their responses. And I got the full range of answers from this particular date is when I realized I was beautiful. And then other people would say, gosh, I'm really just still working on that. I don't know. And then other people would burst into tears. And so it was really beautiful to see how everyone has a sense of their beauty. And sometimes, and I really think of this as radiance, is sometimes we lose touch with it. And it's really about how do we get back to it. And every single person has incredible radiance. And I think that the more armor and things that we do to pull up and protect ourselves, and all that hurt that we haven't resolved and worked through, that kind of like dims our light, unfortunately. And so it's harder for other people to see, because we are trying to protect, people are trying to protect themselves. But what also happens is that we can't see radiance as well. So I think that some of the most radiant people, some of the most beautiful people that I know, are these people that have done a lot of work, that have worked through, and not that, I mean, again, we've all gone through hurt, right? But that have been willing to really look at it, resolve it, work through it. They may have had people in their lives that have been guiding lights. That there's a term, have you heard Amankara, like a soulmate kind of thing, or a soul partner that really helps you kind of work through that. And I think things like that can really help us see our own beauty and our own light, and let that really shine.
Beautifully said. Beautiful. We're talking about beauty. Beauty's an energy. It's like I sit in the energy of beauty, and seriously, good things happen to beautiful people. And being in an energy of that, you're just kind of a bit more in flow state. So I hear you on the connection with others, being in communion with others to build each other up, to integrate things, to enjoy life with one another, I think is awesome. Personally, I feel my most radiant, and I actually take the best photos and pictures when I'm in nature, when I feel safe, have sunshine on my skin, and I'm in a quiet environment near water. These are the times when I take those awesome selfies, when I get these creative hits, when I feel that, yes, I can take that armor off. And sometimes, as being an intuitive empath, a teacher, a leader, we don't always want to show up. We don't always want to be seen. But when we feel safe, we can be seen, and then we're giving off more of this light. And actually, our faces and our hands are the highest emitters of photons, which are packets of light from the body, which is so cool. You even have a machine that detects how much light comes off your fingers, which is super fascinating. So I would love to hear some things from you, such as you alluded to this earlier, but I'd love for you to add to this. How do hormonal imbalances impact the skin? And I know in my experience, having worked with thousands of clients since 2011, 20,000 rejuvenation procedures later, that when we hit ages 37 to 41, we go through pretty big shifts with our estrogen, and the impacts are collagen and elastin. So we understand that, and I've said that many times on the show, but I'm sure you have something to add to that. How do hormonal imbalances impact our skin?
Yeah, hormones definitely have a huge impact on our skin, both men and women. And one of the biggest changes that we first see is around puberty, right? And you see both boys and girls going through puberty, breaking out in acne, really struggling with that. And of course, there are environmental components to this. We definitely know that and there are places in the world where there's no acne. So we know that there's a huge lifestyle component to it, but when we combine our hormones, with the lifestyle, we're looking at both of those, and really our lifestyle choices impact our hormones. But that's a big one. Our sex hormones are changing with puberty, and so acne breakouts can occur. That's not the only time. As you know, like, there are a lot of women that will end up coming back in during these times in 30s and 40s, especially, of, wait a minute, I'm not a teenager. Why am I having acne? Why am I suddenly getting all these breakouts? And so, definitely, changes in sex hormones can cause that to happen. A lot of it is more around androgen excess and this imbalance of, excess of androgens in relationship to the other hormones. And then, as you mentioned, also some of the sex hormones that start to change, like when we got less estrogen, progesterone, and then later on testosterone as well, we can start to really notice changes in our skin, not having that same level of youthful glow that we had, and like in our teens and 20s. And so like estrogen kind of gives a lot more of that vibrancy. And then, but progesterone is also important. And even testosterone, when that starts to drop, it causes a loss in our muscles. And so we have muscles in our face. And so that can also cause more of the change in your skin. But it's not just sex hormones that impact our skin. And a lot of people think, when they think of hormones, they just think of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. But there's also thyroid hormone. So one of the earliest warning signs of low thyroid function is dry skin. And then on the flip side of that, people with high thyroid, like their thyroid's too high, they might notice that their skin is oilier and more acne prone. And then with cortisol, adrenal hormone cortisol, or major stress hormone, that can trigger more inflammatory skin issues. So people with, especially that have a genetic predisposition to things like eczema, atopic dermatitis, rosacea, acne, they can experience an increase in all of those things if their cortisol, if their stress hormone is getting up too high. Now, I mean, these are the things that change and our skin is related to. The good news is that we can take that information that our skin is giving us and then do something about it, right? It's not like, oh, great, now my skin's just going to fall apart because my hormones are declining. There are things, as you know, Rachel, that we can do to help support the skin as these hormones are changing. And there are things that we can do to support our hormones so that our skin gets the benefit.
Wonderfully said. Love it. Some things came up that I think would be cool to kind of piggyback off that. We lose bone, fat, collagen, and elastin. These are the main three types of changes that we observe in the face. In fact, the bones around your eyes and your nose get bigger. So your eyes recess back. That's why your nose gets bigger as you age. And then we lose bones. So the really important thing to highlight here is that as we age, we're not losing bone density, because you will see it in your face. That's why taking care of your nutrients, your minerals, your hormones is really important, so that you don't accelerate your aging by missing the boat on supporting your bones. And like literally your bones hold up your face, your muscles attached to your bones and all sorts of things, right? So then we have collagen and elastin, estrogen. As soon as that starts to drop off, we notice changes. Fat pads, there's many fat pads in the face. They tend to shrink and fall. And then, of course, facial muscles with the jawline getting big and bulky with lots of chewing and talking and singing and communicating. Don't chew gum. Chewing gum is one of the fastest ways to age your jawline. If you'd like to read my jawline paper, you can find that at rachelvarga.ca, and I do talk about that. You mentioned some things about stress. Now, as we go through life, we experience events. And what I find myself is when I'm going through something, I really do my best to do everything I can to support my adrenals so that I'm not taxing my kidneys, I'm not getting cortisol dumping, which then has a downstream hormone effect. So I do actually have a hormone stack. It's 3 products on my e-store. It's the Ad Reset, Exhilarin, and Nucera. Those are awesome. If I'm feeling stressed out, I'll pop those. If I'm about to get on stage and speak and I'm kind of nervous, I'll pop those. And I find I don't need to take them all the time. But I personally feel like adrenal support at the first sign of stress is absolutely everything. And then also on the flip side, how do you notice those that have spiritual practice? Because I know that you have quite the spiritual background. Trevor, Kate's, and I, we resonate on a similar frequency. But how do you notice stress impacts the skin negatively? And how do you notice spirituality impacts the skin positively?
So stress, I mean, really, I don't want to make cortisol sound like the bad hormone here. None of the hormones are bad. They're all good. They just need to be balanced, right? So cortisol has a big role to play in our health. It helps us in times of stress get through stress, but it's more designed for acute, like really helpful for acute stress, like when we're like a car's coming at us and we need to run, and like our adrenaline and all of that kicks in. It is how it's, cortisol is part of that stress response. It's also, we get a spike in cortisol in the morning that helps us get up and not have to rely upon coffee. We can have coffee because we like the antioxidants and the taste, but not because we have to rely upon it to get us going. But a lot of people end up with imbalances in cortisol because of ongoing stress. They're not managing their stress. So when we look at skin, again, we need cortisol for our good health. But when cortisol starts to get elevated and it's too high, it causes more of that inflammation, more of that triggering of chronic skin issues. But it's about balance. We want a balance of it. And we can definitely take adaptogenic herbs, which are fantastic. There are a lot of nutrients that our body needs to help with our adrenals, like vitamin C and B vitamins, and we can get those with our food and in supplements. But as you mentioned, Rachel, there's also the mindset, there's the stress management, the spiritual practice of it. And I do find that it absolutely is essential to have some sort of practice. And that's why in both of my books, I talk about, in my first book, I'd call it, the clean mind, mindfulness practices. And the second book, I talk about mindset practices for each season, because our mood goes through seasonal changes. We have different stressors at different times of the year. Like, for example, the holidays and the wintertime, that brings up a whole other set of levels of stress, right? And our skin changes can stress us out too. So as the weather gets drier, especially if we have drier skin and we're just noticing these changes, that can stress us out. And then that can then lead to more of these inflammatory skin issues. So depending upon the season, it can change the practices that we want to incorporate. And yeah, I have a master's degree in spiritual psychology in addition to being a naturopathic physician. And the reason why I went to do that program is that I had been already in practice for 10 years, that I kept seeing that I could tell people things over and over again. It's, you need to change your diet. You need to take these supplements. I would make these recommendations, but until people get a more of a practice of a mindset, spiritual practice, it's really hard to make that connection with your brain of like, yes, I deserve this. I'm going to make a change, and that's now. And because again, we can have these things as baggage that we can sometimes carry around that we need to let go of so that we know that we are worth it, that we deserve to be truly optimally healthy. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people haven't come to that realization. And I think that society in a lot of ways kind of breaks that down from us. So Rachel, you and I are doing what we can to help build people back up.
Yes, we are. And at the same token, it's good for us to have other people build us back up. Dr. Trevor Cates and I were kind of those like encourager type of leaders and speakers and presenters. But, don't be fooled. We're people do. We like to have our cups filled up. And then for me, with this recent long fast in Sedona in Utah, my cup just had to be completely emptied in order for it to be overfilled. And it was really interesting, the changes with my gut with doing that. And I know that you really understand the body's microbiomes very well. You've been speaking on the gut microbiome for years. You were actually one of my first guests to really explain it on the show here in a very eloquent way. But how does our gut microbiome play a role in both skin and hormones?
Yeah, it is absolutely important. And it's so great to see the research that has been coming out more and more on the gut microbiome, the skin microbiome. When I first was in naturopathic medical school many years ago, we talked about it in naturopathic medicine, but there wasn't a lot of research. And so conventional doctors were like, yeah, the gut's not related to anything else except the gut. It's only for digestion. So you don't need to worry about it otherwise. And so but we were trying to like explain the connection. So it's really great to see all of that come together. And certainly something I've seen in all of my years of seeing patients is that so many skin issues go back to the gut. And a lot of hormonal imbalances, we have to address the gut in order to have true hormonal imbalances. And I think so often, people come in with a skin issue and say, what topical can you give me to get rid of my eczema or my acne? Or, coming in with hormones declining and saying, I need to get on bioidentical hormones. And like, okay, great, we can do these things, but first we have to talk about your gut. And it's so important to do that because with all this external stuff that we put on it, it's not going to work the same if you're not healing your body from within, because our gut microbiome connects to our skin microbiome. And so one of the biggest things that we want to do to change the skin microbiome comes from the gut. We want to do things topically too to help support the skin microbiome. But if we're not doing the gut work, then it's just not going to be the same. And so, it can be for people, it might be something like eating more fiber, getting more fiber in your diet. And sometimes it's in the form of taking supplements, making sure that you're eating a variety of produce from different places, getting maybe supplements can be helpful, but some people actually have dysbiosis, imbalances. Maybe they have a harmful overgrowth of bacteria, or they have not enough of good bacteria, or parasites, or fungi, or a lot of different things that can go out of balance. Candida can get out of balance, and so it's really about finding out what's going on with your gut And if you're following a healthy diet and lifestyle and it's just not enough, you might need to have some tests done to see what else is going on, because symptoms are great, but also lab tests can bring another layer of information for you that helps with treatment.
Wonderfully said. And yes, you should see all the tests that I've been doing this week. I got a fertility test, I got a gut test, 2 saliva tests, 2 blood tests, and a heavy metal toxin test. So very interesting deep dives that I'm going on behind the scenes, that I have going on behind the scenes. And when we talk about nutrition, I'm a huge fan. Get yourself the Viome gut health intelligence test, the full body intelligence test. They have a new one too. Viome makes a really great test kit so that you can actually eat foods that are ideal for your constitution and start there, purifying your air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, eat the right foods, and then add in the extras. So I'd love for you to expand on how are toxins in skincare a problem for our hormones? What's your take on toxic skincare?
Yeah, I think I know you talked a lot about toxins and skincare and definitely ones to avoid. But there are this group of chemicals that are in a lot of personal care products called endocrine disrupting chemicals. And so these are classic chemicals that disrupt our hormones. They bind to hormone receptors, and then the body thinks that they're either, maybe it is a hormone. So like a chemical could come in and the body thinks, oh, I've got more estrogen, so I'm going to behave like I have more estrogen, when actually it's not even estrogen. It is this toxic chemical. And so it can lead to a number of health issues. And estrogen is just one example, but it can disrupt your thyroid. It can disrupt adrenal hormones. It can even disrupt insulin, and which helps with our blood sugar and related to weight and energy. So many things are related to this. So, I mean, I think a lot of people talk about parabens. A lot of those have been removed from products, but surprisingly, they're still in a lot of even so-called natural products, which is shocking. And parabens are known estrogen mimicking chemicals. They have shown up in breast tumor tissues. And so, definitely, that's one of them. Another big one is in fragrance, which is our phthalates and diethyl phthalates that is used in fragrance to help the scent last longer. So, avoiding fragrance, that and diethyl phthalates is just one of the things, one of the endocrine disruptors that might be in fragrance. And there could be others. Oxybenzone and other of the ons are also of concern for being endocrine disrupting chemicals. And endocrine disrupting chemicals are also found in our food, our water. So many of the cleaning products are used. So we're exposed to these in so many different places in our air, water, and food and personal care products. And I think it's one of the reasons we're seeing more thyroid disease. We're seeing more complicated hormonal imbalances. I mean, it would just, those of us who've been practicing for a while, we really start to see it's not so easy. I mean, it's not as easy as it used to be to treat things like infertility and period problems. And we're seeing more of these issues and early menopause and a lot of things that are happening that are just more complex because of the number of hormone disrupting chemicals we're exposed to. So the thing is that just do what you can to reduce your exposure, because people are oftentimes saying like, how do I get them out of my body, which is important. But the first thing is you've got to stop getting exposed to them and or reduce your overall exposure to them. And then we can also talk about how to help eliminate them. And a lot of that elimination goes back to the gut. And we've got to get the gut healthy, because that helps us with the elimination of the toxins that we're exposed to.
Yeah, wonderfully said. I find it challenging whenever I need to pick up a laundry detergent or a dish soap. I notice that most of the products on the shelves still have the sulfates in all of them. And the sulfates are what give this foaming action. And you really don't want to be washing your garments in sulfates or washing your dishes in sulfates, because then you'll ingest them that way. So thank you for mentioning that. And just to reiterate, parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances, sometimes you just have to check what's in the fragrances, and any sunscreen ingredients that ends with an own Zinc and titanium are the two only sunscreen ingredients that I get behind, such as this one, this awesome zinc sunscreen that you can find on my e-store at rachelvarga.ca. So, Dr. Trevor Cates, what are the 4 key factors that you talk about in your new book, Natural Beauty Reset, that helps with hormone imbalances?
I talk in the first part of the book, I talk about a lot of the root causes. So, explain about hormonal imbalances, how to know which hormones might be out of balance for you, neurotransmitters. I talk about problems that with our common dietary practices and gut issues and nutritional deficiencies and a lot of the common um, issues that lead to imbalances. And then in the second part of the book, I talk about food, movement, mindset, and skincare. So these are the areas, the 4 main areas that I found really help people build a strong foundation. And once you have that strong foundation, then you can build upon that. But without that, you really can't go and just run and do all these other things that people oftentimes are looking for these quick fixes. But if you, but you really got to dial these 4 areas in. And as I mentioned, our needs change for the season. So we want to shift these up for the season. So for food, for example, we want to look at what's growing in the areas where we're living, what is most abundant, because those foods are not only going to be more flavorful, but they're also going to be more nutrient rich. And we need key nutrients to help with our hormones, and we need key nutrients to help us with our gut microbiome. So we need these things. So we want our food as optimally nutrient rich as possible. So when we eat foods in season, we're more likely to do that. And then we also our hormones change with the seasons. It's really interesting to look at things like estrogen, for example, that it is typically higher in women in the spring and summer, which is oftentimes known as more of times of fertility, right? So those are times when naturally that's occurring, whereas testosterone might actually be a little bit higher in the fall and maybe even into the winter. And so one of the things is that we believe that might be contributing to that is we get the extra vitamin D in the summer, and that could give our testosterone a nice little boost. So it's really interesting to see that these things these hormones can change throughout the year. Our thyroid hormone can change as well in response to temperature changes. And so our body's trying to respond to the cooler temperatures and and our body, a major mechanism of metabolism is through our thyroid hormones. So these are changing. So we want to have our food, movement, mindset, skincare to really support us and change through the season. So what I did is I created a 7-day reset for each season with examples in each of these areas for the 7 days.
Ooh, that's lovely. I look forward to accessing those myself as well and picking up a copy of your book, Natural Beauty Reset, at thespadoctor.com. Trevor, do you have any closing words for us here today on the show, where we've been focusing on achieving and receiving clear skin from within and slowing aging? Do you have any final words on the topics of clear skin from within and slowing aging for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things is that's important first is to realize is that your skin can give you valuable clues about your health. So don't beat yourself up about it. Just be proactive with it. Say, "Oh, I'm noticing that I'm breaking out now. I'm noticing that my skin seems to be suddenly aging more fat, more quickly. So what can I do? What have I been doing? What may be impacting that?" Or maybe on the flip side of that, you're like, "Wow, I got a really good glow going on right now. What's going on?" So paying attention to that, I think that's one of the first things. And then realizing that in order to support it, you really want to build that healthy foundation with food, movement, mindset, and skincare.
Wonderful. And I'll just add to that, staying pure with your body, mind, spirit, energy, and detoxification practices to keep that gut healthy so that you don't become too good of a host with things that can accumulate, especially as women. And there's so much that the skin can tell us with what's going on inside. When there's gut disturbance, you'll see things like periocular or irritation around the eyes, puffiness, irritation to the corners of the mouth. Absolutely, because the gut opens up to your mouth, right? The gut lining. We get, again, that direct interface between the two microbiomes with the gut and the skin because they literally open to one another. So, Dr. Trevor Cates, where can people find you? How can they spend more time with you? We do have your links and everything in the description of this episode. So learn more about Trevor Cates at thespadoctor.com. Check out her products and her podcast, The Women's Doctor Podcast. But where else are you hanging out? And what other cool stuff do you have to share with our audience here today?
Yeah, absolutely. So people can get my book wherever books are sold. It's an Amazon bestseller. So you can go there, or you can go wherever books are sold to get Natural Beauty Reset, my brand new book. And we are currently still in the fall. So you'd want to follow the fall reset. And then you'll go back to it to do the winter, spring, summer resets. And I'm also on social media. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, and join us there.
Wonderful. Yeah, we should definitely do a social media live at some point, Trevor. I know we've done that in the past, and I'm kind of getting back into that because I did take a break from social from March all the way to August. Social media detox is like the best thing I could have done just to get recentered after some turbulent times in the world. Sometimes it's good to just take that time to go within, calm down, get that stress level down, and just be in your own energy. So that helped me with my skin and slowing aging process, and even breakouts. I barely get breakouts anymore with doing intentional fasting and detoxing from all sorts of things in our daily lives. So Dr. Trevor Cates, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Everybody be sure to pick up a copy of her book at thespadoctor.com. Be sure to subscribe and check out her show. You'll see lots of familiar faces and names on her show as well that have been here, but each of these shows have a slightly different angle and approach to skin, to slowing aging, to women's health. So Dr. Trevor Cates is definitely someone that you can trust in regards to getting some of the highest level skin content out there. And like I said, I've looked up to you for many years, Dr. Trevor Cates. You continue to inspire me. You do great work. When I see you, I see a beautiful, radiant woman. And I happen to know that you don't have to do too much to get that. I mean, it's your lifestyle, it's your skincare. And so you are rocking a natural look with slowing aging by doing all the good things and making good choices. So I would love to leave everybody with the sentiment of making good choices today. Start where you're at in regards to supporting your body, mind, spirit, energy. If you're interested in learning more about ways that you can connect with myself through a one-on-one session where I can give you customized at-home and in-clinic skin guidance, look for some clinics near you, give you ongoing support. Take my seasonal skin camp programs for skincare tutorials, makeup tutorials, my live dermal rolling demo. I just last week did an advanced dermal rolling demo. And stay tuned for something extra delicious, teaching radiance. This is what I love to teach people. This is like the depths of what I feel like I'm here to do, is to teach people how to be more radiant, high vibe humans. So stay tuned. Everything's going to be on rachelvarga.ca. Join the newsletter as well so you don't miss out on upcoming events and my exciting radiant offering coming soon. Thanks for being on the show here, Dr. Trevor Cates, and I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yes, thank you.